felt is paid for, all is said and done. Oh, I am restricted, fixed upon the web. I need to kick the habit that my mind is breathing in. Break out, I've got to see. Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it innocent, a feel of discontent. I'm finally facing it all, fearless.
Hello everyone, welcome back after a long time with me. Hi Matt, how are you?
Doing terrific, thank you. Good evening, Shubham. Our
Good
thanks.
evening. Yeah, it's great. I have been sick for some time, but uh, now a lot
Sorry
better.
to hear that.
But now I'm a lot better, and yep, it's great.
Okay, how do you like my background?
Oh, that is so cool. It's like
Yeah,
a
it's
boss level character with a
yeah,
wolf behind you.
has a lot of symbolism. All
Mhm.
right, tonight we are going to talk about a very interesting mixture of topics, um, which is related to my economic views, uh, the private venture I'm launching on the 1st of March, and with my private trading strategy, but also with concepts of narcissistic abuse, false reality, Austrian economics, and Jungian alchemy.
Well,
What do you think?
congratulations, and all the very best about that. We'll be getting to know a lot more about it in the next episodes, and maybe this one as well. Maybe you can give a glimpse. Oh wow, yes, I have seen that one before.
Yeah, that's my artifact from the Year of the Dragon. It's a silver sovereign coin from
Mhm.
an Australian mint in Perth. Um,
Wow.
I've been buying physical assets since 2015, but I'll talk about it in the presentation.
Mhm.
Shall we get going?
Sure, let's kick it up.
Okie doke. So, tonight's topic, Nigredo, the dark night of the fiat money system. And as a consequence of that, it will merge into another dark night of humanity. And I pray to
Mhm.
God that we won't get shadow possessed like we did after 1929 in 1933. It's about architecting the liberty in the year of the fire horse. So, a little bit of background. I
Mhm.
have mapped my personal individuation journey to my analysis of the financial markets and overall macroeconomy.
Mhm.
A bit of a personal story about it. I graduated from the University of Cumbria through the Robert Kennedy College, which is in Switzerland. University of Cumbria is here in Britain.
Mhm.
And I wrote my thesis on sustainable economic growth using Austrian economics. And I was arguing for sound money, small government, and a different take on central planning, especially central planning and interfering in the role of money and credits. I was arguing that the path we were on, mind you, that was in 2012, 2014, so not that much after the 2008 housing crisis. I was arguing that especially the US was on an unsustainable debt trajectory, and money printing will only exacerbate the problems. Yet, even as the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve came to the conclusion that ultimately it was imprudent lending standards and keeping interest rates too low for too long were the root causes of the housing bubble, they doubled down on it. So if you remember, after that, they cut interest rates even more and piled on way more debt. They did
Yes.
some banking regulations, which of course just moved the problems one layer lower, because back then we had a shadow banking system too. It was called private credit, but back then it wasn't as big. However, after Basel 1 or Basel 1, 2, and now 3, investment banking did not really like being regulated, so they they moved the high risk, high yield components to an unregulated sphere, and the central banks have provided the liquidity for it with quantitative easing and extremely low interest rates. Now, my thesis back then, my Swiss professors liked it, but we had opponents from Harvard who absolutely hated it. Okay, I wasn't politically correct. I drew a comparison of the American systems, especially pension and Medicare and Medicaid, with a Ponzi scheme. And
Yes.
of course, they did not like it. But they could not really get me on data or mechanics or references. So last minute, they told me that I should change the referencing style from Oxford to Harvard. I did it, then they were trying to find another excuse. I ended up escalating this to the dean and basically told
Okay.
them that I'm actually paying for this and I don't think I'm treated fairly, and I don't want an American from Harvard to grade my assessment. And ultimately I graduated, so I received a B minus, but you get the idea. The
Yes. That
institutions really did not like that I was challenging their almighty worldview.
all the
But
like whole structure only.
yes, but fast forward 14 years,
Mhm.
and the bills are now coming due this year, and
Yes.
they can no longer kick the can down the long grass. So they will have to face reality. Now, I have no illusions they will blame it on capitalism. They will find a scapegoat. They will do what narcissists do. It's called Darvo, and it's a
Mhm.
very predictable pattern of behavior, but I will talk about it later. So, uniquely, we're not going to solely talk about psychology this time, although I will link the two. But I have to introduce a couple of concepts which might be very unfamiliar for the public because Austrian economics, the thesis of Mises, Hayek, are not really, and Rothbard are not really mainstream, even though with the election of Javier Milei in Argentina, it's getting a bit more popular. And the last time we had politicians who, and this economic rule of thought prevail for a brief period of time was to some extent during the Reagan-Thatcher era, where they
Okay.
were facing extremely high inflation. And instead of doubling down on it, they raised interest rates, which of course created a correction in the form of recession. But at the same time, to some extent, and not to the extent where it would have been healthy, they almost cut government. What they did in reality is they just halted the growth and expansion of government outreach and tyranny. But they also cut regulations, which created a very friendly and stable environment for sustainable growth because it wasn't based on bloody illusions, but real productivity. And it followed decades of sound growth until the central
No,
planners and other communists decided to control more and intervene more.
that resulted in like a total chaos only.
Not total chaos. It resulted in very predictable things. It created malinvestments. So it created the dot-com bubble in 99 and 2000, 2001. Then in order to get out of that bubble, they they doubled down and inflated an even bigger bubble, the housing bubble. Then the fallout of this resulted in more money printing and tripling down on this lunacy. It made a lot of bankers and financial institutions extremely wealthy. And the most insidious, deceitful, and disgusting part of it is that these people call themselves socialists. Well, they may not call themselves socialists, but that's they identify as economic lefties,
Yes.
and
So,
yet they know all too well that these policies result in basically wealth transfer from the working class to those who hold assets.
right.
And it makes the poor poorer and those who are
The-
asset rich much richer. So it
Yes.
exacerbates differences and it
No,
creates a lot of malinvestment. Sorry,
I'll
carry on.
I'll take it as that something like that is going to happen again very much soon.
This is what has been happening. What is going to happen now
Mm-hmm.
is they ran out of lies. The truth will hold up a mirror. And if you hold up a mirror to a narcissistic abuser, their ego will deflate. And as it deflates, they go into a narcissistic rage.
Yes.
Okay, so the concept of sound money versus state-driven and manipulated money markets. What is money?
Well, anything that you can get you something, right? Money
Money.
is some that
Sorry, Karen.
anything that has a value. I'll like I'll maybe say it in that way.
Okay, if I had a 20-pounder note,
Uh,
does it have a value?
no,
Why
well,
not? I can buy things with it.
it is just a paper, but like if because it is backed by something, right? It is backed by
Yes, but
that's right.
the problem is that so money has fundamentally three functions. A unit of measure,
Mm-hmm.
because we measure the value of goods and services in
Correct.
monetary terms, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you go and buy a car and it costs you £40,000 or something like that.
Right.
Um, now, 10 years ago, the same status car would have cost you £15,000. But of course, according to the government, it's not inflation because the new car has a lot of new technologies. As if prior to that, there was no technological advancement, so you can simply just write it off as, nah, it's not inflation. Trust the government. We would
Mm-hmm.
never lie to you, of course. Um, sound money is a type of money that is not prone to sudden appreciation or depreciation. It's stable. There's no inflationary targeting. The purchasing power is the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it's often tied to a tangible physical asset that cannot be diluted like a share
Right.
if the government wishes to. Real assets like silver, gold, copper, oil stand as the only defense against state-driven debt or real estate to some extent. Real estate's price will fluctuate, but when you print a lot of debt and understand that in a fractional reserve banking fiat system, there's no such thing as money on its own. Every dollar, pound, rupee you see on the screen, which you claim as yours, is actually a claim and credit to someone else.
Yes.
Now, the unit of measure part of the three main characteristics of paper money is to some extent acceptable, but it fluctuates a lot because of all this manipulation. The other big function is medium of exchange. What does
Right.
that mean? It means that I can pay with it because whoever is on the other end of that transaction and receives the money believes that he will be able to then use that same money and exchange it for other
Other
goods and
things.
services, right?
True.
But what happens when central banks and governments go a bit too far and that medium of exchange loses value rapidly?
Then it will all collapse, right? Nobody will believe in that paper money, right?
We have seen examples in the 20th century of that um, in Weimar, Germany. And
Okay.
the paper money was depreciating so fast. Mind you, back then people received their wages on weekly basis, sometimes daily, not monthly like now,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing was electronic. That the moment they received their wages, they ran and tried to buy stuff. But most people did not even accept that money because it was depreciating so fast that the moment you received it, it worth less than a minute before. And so it failed to function as a medium of exchange. And people resorted in barters and accepting hard assets as payment.
Yes.
But every single time government creates more debt and increases the money supply, they basically create a transfer from savers to debtors.
Mm-hmm.
Why that is because if you think about it, when you use leverage, so let's say you buy a house,
Okay.
the bank lends you the money, you buy the asset.
All right.
The collateral is basically the asset itself,
Mm-hmm.
which is why it's a risky transaction for the bank. You pay interest, and over time, you pay off the debt. But
Mm-hmm.
usually, and I'm not sure about India, but here in the UK, and I think in most countries in Europe and in the States, the interest rate you're paying for this debt is fixed. So let's say it's 4%, 5%, 10%,
Yes.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if, in the meantime, government starts diluting money in a phased manner, and there's Kantian effect and other things, but people will demand higher wages
Correct.
because their money doesn't go that far. So they
Mm-hmm.
try to maintain their living standards. Now, let's say, and unfortunately it doesn't work like that, so wages cannot outrun inflation or real inflation ever. But two things happen. In the unit of measure value, your house appreciates.
Correct.
Whatever you bought for £300,000, ceteris paribus, which basically means all else being equal, just because they print money and create inflation, the nominal value of your asset, your house, goes up.
Yes.
But what happens with your mortgage?
It will stay the same. So bank will be losing money.
The bank is not losing money, the bank is losing value.
Correct. Like the value of the money, because they'll be getting the same amount that was like agreed upon, like when we were mortgaging it, but now they actually get lesser amount of like value with the same amount of money, right?
Correct. Now, it is easy to see as a result of that state-driven debt-based systems are not backed by any physical commodity. So there's no anchor to fix that unit price and not create confusions. And its value is solely based on faith and credit in the state itself.
Yes.
The state can single-handedly create more units of this currency at will. And unfortunately, because that's how we work, I mean as individuals as well as groups of people, the incentive is for every single politician, because they want to keep their job, is to always choose short-term gain over sometimes necessarily painful long-term adjustments.
Okay.
And as a result of that, they don't care about the malinvestments created by diluting the money supply. They don't even really care about inflation because inflation doesn't occur immediately after printing money. I'm
Right.
not going to name the exact the exact event because it can still ban us on at least shadow ban on YouTube if I name it precisely. But there was an event because we live in this free world.
Mm-hmm.
There was an event in 2020 when governments worldwide decided that it was prudent and a lovely idea to shut down production, halt the exchange of goods and services, and at the same time, because that's lunacy on its own, and if you understand the concept of supply and demand and how
Yes.
prices are formed,
Correct.
if you artificially suppress supply, because then way less goods and services are produced.
Correct.
So against the same demand, the prices can only go up.
Yes.
But through an insult to injury, in their ultimate wisdom, and of course I know these people always have the best interest of ours at heart. um, they thought, okay, maybe that's not that good of an idea on its own, because people might complain that, they have these kind of pesky concepts. Some of us complained about fundamental human rights and liberty, but those are the rebellious kind and they are the enemies of the state. So it's absolutely fine to put the heavy boots of the state on them. But even other people who would otherwise would be very compliant and can be bullied into compliance by fear would really start complaining if they did not have enough money or means to actually eat. And
Yes.
that's not that good of a thing. So Big Daddy government then decided, oh, don't worry, we got you. Here's money. But the problem is that government doesn't produce bread. Government doesn't produce jack. The only thing government produces is misery,
Yeah.
tyranny, and inflation. And irrespective of which party is in power, by the way. And as a result of that, because they don't produce jack, the way how
They.
they make money is by extortion. Because if if you follow the government's model of raising the revenue in a private life, that would probably end you up in jail. Because what they do is basically blackmail. You're gonna pay taxes, and if you don't, or
We'll
else we're
prison.
gonna throw you in jail. We're gonna beat you up. We're gonna take what's yours because it belongs to the collective. Give me all your money. I want to give it away in your name. If an individual told you that, then you would probably call the police and think that he or she is a crackpot. But since the government does that, we all just, yes, Daddy. Anyway, I love socialists, really. I absolutely do. Growing up in Eastern Europe, I mean, I got first-hand taste of how lovely these systems are. So back in 2020, in order to postpone the reality or the sobering up from this, they decided, okay, we can't produce goods, so we need to give money, but now we can't really collect taxes either because we shut down production and other economic activities. What can we do? Let's print an awful lot of money, pile on debt on top of that, and since we're politicians, that will cover us up for a year or two. Let's pray to God that the Kantian effect would not create the inflation before the next general election. And then the public will be compliant because they get free money, because it grows on trees. Now, in March of 2020, I made a post and basically said, this is a brilliant idea. You can't hide from this thing. The moment you ease the tyrannical measures, it will come back with a vengeance because you can't hide from it.
Right.
I did not need to be a healthcare professional to understand that. I just understand mathematics, and as a matter of fact, I built a modeling that. Anyway, but there's one thing I can say for certain, that it's going to blow up the economy, and it's going to create massive inflation, and we all going to suffer as a result of that. Now, of course, I was called selfish and all kinds of names, but I shouldn't have posted anything on social media because people are people and I should have known better. But came 2022, unfortunately, the Kantian effect did not delay it enough for these lovely people. They were still in power when inflation got outside of assets, stocks, and commodities to grocery basket. And that was a little bit too big of a lie, even for a government to cover it up. So they got voted out. And this phenomenon could be observed anywhere. The problem is that whilst the guys were busy printing a lot of money, they reduced interest rates as well. And the bigger problem with this is that think about the economy and everyone within the economy as participants who respond to signals. Now, imagine that you run a restaurant.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, you receive an extortionate amount of booking. You cannot serve all the customers who are coming. So the business is really good. What do you do?
We do like the reservation model kind of thing that, or maybe we'll just shut it down and we'll.
Why
Okay.
would you shut it down? You're the business
Oh, sorry.
owner, and
No, sorry. Yeah.
all you can see is that you have a lot of extra
There will
customers coming to your restaurant.
there will be a waiting line only that at that time only these kind of people can be served or
Oh
something like
God,
that. I
Shubham, you are such an IT guy. You're not you don't have a
business guy.
business mindset. So if I owned that business, I would be like, fucking, sorry,
We,
that's great. A
we
lot
can
of extra
hire
customers. We can make
expand.
more money.
We will try to expand and we'll try to like increase the capacity and everything, right?
So what happened here? We observed something and we then made a rational decision to respond to this signal.
Mm-hmm.
But what if I told you that we did not do a due diligence finding out, and in the markets most people operate like that, not me, because I'm like, okay, that's a signal, now let's try to understand the why behind it. But most people don't do that, they just respond,
Okay.
unfortunately. But what if I told you that, well, the reason you had all this booking and sudden increase in demand to your products was because
A restaurant
there
was
was a
full of stuff.
no that let's say that there was a student exchange program facilitated by the local school, and a big holiday for an extended period of time, and a circus came into town as well. So yes, you had 4 times as much demand for your food and restaurant services as normal. But if you reacted to that signal, the logical step would have been, okay, let's invest in expanding the restaurant, hire more chefs, hire more waiters. But
Mhm.
when these
They,
external circumstances disappear, you realize that, oops, I need to fire a lot of people. Oops,
Mhm.
I need to pay back the debt for the expansion, because the normal market behavior is way less
Mm,
customers and way less spending. Now,
right.
money behaves the same way, because even though consciously participants in the market don't say it, or it doesn't necessarily register that that's what's happening, but they react to the amount of credit. Because if you think about it, what happens even on a normal consumer level when governments decrease artificially or suppress credits? Sorry, they don't suppress credits, they suppress interest rates. What happens is that going into debt becomes cheaper. The price of money itself becomes
Goes.
cheaper. How do
Yes.
you react usually? You consume more.
Mhm.
That extra consumption triggers a lot of investment decisions from businesses that are based off a temporary shit, which is artificial. And when inflation hits and they try to rise interest rates, then all these malinvestments are exposed. And that's why we have all these frequent boom and bust cycles, because these narcissistic cretins think that they know better what is the correct price of the money than letting it happen naturally. Because in a system that is anchored in hard reality, be it gold, silver, couple of assets, but something that can't be diluted,
Right.
you cannot just you first of all, you cannot create a lot of artificial credit. You cannot go into debt. Government can't go to war and create a lot of extra unsustainable shit, because they have to cover it almost immediately and then raise taxes. But the moment they raise taxes, the public realizes that, ooh, actually, this free shit I voted for is not free.
Yes.
So the truth sort of slaps them in the face much sooner. And as a result of that, they tend to act way more responsibly. Now, with this lovely system of fiat money, which we have or have been having since the 70s, I think, governments got away with this wonderful phenomenon of quantitative easing, or debasing the currency. However, if we go back to history, France was infamous of that, but even the Roman Empire, the more irresponsible cretins they were, the more they the more they diluted the money, and eventually they went bankrupt. And that's exactly what's happening right now. And it's not enough that the private markets and everyone else are misreading these signals, but unfortunately, it also enables temporarily governments to go into ever more debt, which of course they are very incentivized to do as politicians, because when you get the loan, when you get the extra credit, you can spend it immediately, but the bill doesn't come due for decades.
Correct.
And that will be someone else's problem, so what do you care?
That's also true.
So, but in a hard money system, the signal is pure because the consequences are directly linked to the actions. And in this respect, interest rates are an economic light, and central planning is an ego-inflated trap that distorts reality. Now, narcissistic abusers do something very similar. They create illusions and paper promises, if you like, and people believe them until reality hits them in the face. But now, the chickens are coming home to roost, and humanity and the entire system will have to face the consequences and truth. So, unfortunately, this is the year when the entire financial system, and probably as a result of that a little bit later, humanity will have to go through the dark night of the soul, or Nigredo.
Well, I hope it is easy, only not that hard for the general public, because a lot of people will be having a hard time at that time.
Nigredo is never easy.
Mhm.
What I refer to as Nigredo or blackening is, from my personal individuation journey, is when you face inconvenient truth about your own psyche.
Mhm.
When you do a deep dive in this prima materia and face your own shadow. I talked a lot about malinvestments in the economy, building factories and consumers and shiny, lovely office buildings
Okay.
that don't really work. And I can see all of this on the balance sheets and on how the systems work, because I've been there in my personal journey.
Okay.
Now that I have done a bit more audit with the help of Notebook LM and basically reviewed my personal journals from 2015 to 2026, I think that my Nigredo was a little bit longer than I originally thought. I thought that my Nigredo was just around July or August last year, and it lasted until November, December. That was the most intense one, and that's when I really faced most of the black slime and hard truth. But in hindsight, I had phases of little Nigredos before that. In Christmas 2017,
Mhm.
my personal malinvestment started decades ago. I
Okay.
basically built something called a performer persona, a false self, which
Yes.
was designed to earn the love the way banks earn interest. I thought if I was disciplined enough, if I was self-sacrificial enough, if I was strong enough, if I was Kyokushin enough, if I was kind enough, if I kissed ass enough, if I performed, then
Mm-hmm.
it would earn me love and it would earn me security.
Yes.
It did neither of those. Now, why have I become like that? Because I was conditioned to. I grew up in a house with liquid rules. Later, I've realized by reverse engineering my symptoms and checking my journals and using a lot of mathematical analysis and created labels to certain things and then did a correlation analysis, because back then we did not have AI. Well, we did, but not in commercial use, and I wasn't using it, so I had to do it the old-fashioned way. But basically, there was a 0.82 correlation with narcissistic abuse and my symptoms. And then I started learning about, okay, narcissism and different kind of narcissists. And I was like, effing hell, out of the DSM main points, well, 7 fits. So, I mean, not me, but one of my parents. Anyway, so I remember that on the Christmas Eve of 2017, my ex-wife, she gave me an ultimatum, and she basically told me, stop doing Kyokushin, otherwise our marriage is over. That's an external factor that forced me to face certain choices and reality, right?
Mm.
Now, in that moment, I realized that my entire emotional economy, if you like, was based on a lie. I had invested everything in a structure that basically resented my strength. And I don't want to go hard on her because she had her own reasons. She was conditioned by different things, which is why she reacted the way how she did. And in a normal, I mean, looking at it from the outside, it's like you chose a hobby over your marriage. What kind of a selfish POS are you? But those who know me intimately know that Kyokushin is not a hobby for me, but a way of life.
Yes.
And the other reality was that back then, although I did not have the tools or terminology to describe it, I was trying to suppress my shadow. We spoke a lot about what
Yes.
the concept of the shadow is in our previous episodes. Now, back then, I thought that the only way how I can function is if I discipline myself hard and I cage my shadow and use Kyokushin. When I was a child, it was Kempo. Before that, it was Kyokushin again.
Mm.
In order to physically just fatigue and exert myself so much that I won't be capable of hurting anyone or acting in an aggressive manner. Because my biggest fear wasn't that I was going to be hit or beaten up, but that I would become aggressive and abusive and become similar to my abusers. But when this hard choice came, it also made me face another hard choice and make me break a vow. When I was 8 years old, I made a vow that if I ever get married, I will go out of my way to save that marriage and hold the family together, because when my real dad had a stroke and after that they divorced, my life fell apart.
Yes, we have.
But for me, that Christmas basically acted in a way where if you think that you will become a monster in absence of this coping mechanism or caging, then it's not really a choice, especially because we already had our son. And the higher oath I had was the oath that I also, or vow that I also made, which is I'm going to protect my son come hell or high water, even if I need to protect him from myself. So that emotional economy was based on a lie. I had invested in a structure that was not really based on reality. So I received my first margin call.
Okay.
I moved out. I covered the position to close the trade, and I was
Made a loss.
ashamed. You write off the losses. But I was really ashamed of myself, so I did not tell my mom. And I was doing exactly in that moment in time what central banks and regional banks and GSIBs do: extend and pretend. So I was dodging my mom's calls. Eventually, of course, I was forced to admit, so will they. But it was on the balance sheet, and toxic debt. NPLs have to be written off eventually. So
Yes. Also, I believe that you also changed your bike because of something like that as well, right?
no, that was a coping mechanism where I tried to please my avoidant partner. So I changed my motorbike to a different type. But that decision I don't regret, because I fell in love with. I matured a bit, and I don't. I'm no longer an adrenaline junkie, and riding an Indian or a Harley, it just gives me a different feeling, and I absolutely love it. And I no
Okay.
longer feel the need of. I mean, when I was riding a GSXR 750, I mean, man, if I still had that bike, I either would be dead, or probably there wouldn't be too many points left on my license. Because it's just, I mean, I have quite good self-control, but you can't control yourself all the time. Eventually you will give in. And so I think it's for the better that now I have a more mature bike and I'm riding a Harley Fat Bob. But that's not the point. And yes, you're absolutely right. That was also the performer persona that thought that, okay, I will sacrifice more. I will do this. I will do that. And when I was going through the dark night, what was really difficult about it is telling the truth to myself about myself, because I visualized my shadow. I was in a very psychotic state. I could barely sleep and had these kind of visualizations. And my shadow was standing in front of me. And just to give you that example, he was pointing at my chest that you're lying. You're not a good person. You're doing this because you have a hidden clause in those contracts. And that hidden clause is that I'll go out of my way. I'll serve you. I will bleed. I will put on pain. And everything nice and I will perform for you. And in return, you're going to love me. You're going to keep my little boy inside me and you'll give him safety as if it was your job and not mine. And you won't abandon me. Now, it was so facing that reality, because it's not an easy truth if you think about it. We like to think highly of ourselves. We like to tell ourselves comfortable lies like, oh, I'm a good person. I'm lovely. Look at how good I am. I do this, I do that. I sacrifice this for you. But deep down we know that we expect something in return. That we sort of go into this with a conniving contract that in return you will do this, you won't. You see where I'm going with this, right? And then you realize it. I was absolutely disgusted with myself. I was raging. I was angry, which is again very normal for anyone going through the dark night of the soul. Then life wasn't done with me. It was just the beginning of my long agonizing Nigredo. And the body keeps the score. So in 2024, I ran out of certain coping mechanisms, and the auditors forced to mark the market, so to say. And I was diagnosed with low testosterone, abnormal T3 and TSH levels, and a stage 4 osteoarthritis. So my physical shell basically collapsed. Because you can't print energy, you can't. Eventually, truth will get through. So my body issued a force majeure. And that diagnosis was the physical manifestation of my emotional death. And my internal economy screamed that the hustle is over, we are insolvent. I need to do the prudent things. Now, as you get out of Nigredo, I remember writing something along the lines of my journal that only the truth matters, nothing else. Because what really infuriated me was all the lies I told myself. Those comfy, convenient lies. And I decided not to hold back anymore. Usually I'm quite critical with myself when it comes to parenting and my son and whatever. And for that thing that I'm going to share with you, my ex-wife criticized me and was a little bit upset. But for that particular action, I'm actually not blaming myself. Marky was around me when I was in the depth of Nigredo. Here in Britain, so even though it was summertime, it was raining cats and dogs for a couple of days, and I was really not in a good mood. Other than my son and my dog, I did not want to be anywhere near humans. I detested them, hated them, but like...
It happens, yes.
And they irritated me, and I could even sense that even if they did nothing, just exist, that irritated me. The only place where I felt a little bit better was in nature, and I did not want to talk. I wanted everyone to just leave me the bloody fuck alone. Anyway, unfortunately, because my son was with me in the depth and middle of all this, he was like, "Oh, Daddy, look, um, finally it's a little bit sunny outside. Walking, the rain is gone, so you can be happy. Would you mind smiling a bit?"
Wow.
And I was just walking, and I was like, "No, I love you, Mark, but from this day onwards, I will never ever put on a smile if I don't feel happy. I'm not gonna put
Mm.
on fake smiles or any fake emotions, not even for you." That, of course, really did not make him happy, and after that, I explained on his level what was going on and reassured him that I absolutely love him, and it's natural for him to want me to feel happy and look happy, but I'm not gonna extend and pretend anymore. That's how, to some extent, Nigredo plays out. That these were
Mhm.
just parts on a personal level, but it's really, really not nice. Now, after that, as I was getting a little bit better, other lies and maladaptive behaviors were exposed, because once you open your eyes, you start seeing things and you can't unsee them.
Okay.
So then my second pillar collapsed, which was the false dojo.
Mhm.
I had a rather not pleasant experience. I had hip replacement surgery. 5 days after hip replacement surgery, I was back in the dojo on
Okay.
crutches. And I wanted to grade for Shodan before my surgery, but they did not let me because I could not move properly.
Mhm.
Okay. But 5 days out of the operating theater, I was back in the dojo. And I was training. I was training as much as I could. I wanted to prove
Mhm.
to myself, and I was also like, that's the Osino Seishin attitude. And I was
Right.
training as much as I could, but I'm not sure how many of you had the displeasure of full hip replacement surgery, but your mobility and flexibility is not the best 6-7
Right.
months after surgery, so to say. Now, in my case, I never had good mobility because the biological reason for my hip replacement surgery and osteoarthritis was an undiagnosed hip dysplasia. So I had asymmetry, and it created a lot of anomalies or malinvestments in my movement culture anyway. But even to normal everyday activities, I wasn't that good. So at the end of a session, I used a sock puller, right? Like the one that old people do, because I couldn't really cross my legs. I was 6.8% body fat, which makes you extremely vulnerable. I just started eating a bit more, and after that session, I did not want to risk it, so I put the sock puller out, put the sock in, put my foot in, and I tried to use it to put the socks on.
I'm kind
And
of shocked here.
one of the senseis asked what that was. I told her that it was a sock puller,
Mhm.
and she had the audacity to start laughing at me. But because I was outside of Nigredo, instead of feeling ashamed and just swallowing that curse, closed my eyes, took a deep breath, put my socks on, looked her in the eye and asked her, "You think that's funny, huh?"
I remember
Then
you
I
can.
asked,
Yep.
then I asked her, I asked the question, "Do you think that's funny?" Now, that kind of tone and reaction is a heresy to some extent in martial arts because I did not address her as sensei. And I raised my voice.
Mm-hmm.
Then I escalated it to the head of the organization, who promised to deal with it. I gave him a week. Nothing happened, not even a mention or generic statement. Nada. They expected me to just put up with it and shut up. And at that point, I left.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's like really what we can say. That was just disrespectful as well, right?
It's not
And
just
not
disrespectful.
it is
In
just
hindsight,
inhuman.
I was sorry.
It was just inhuman and like insensitive as well. You were giving it your all, and like you had surgery, and she must have already knew about it as well, right?
Of
And
course.
still like she behaved that way. It is just like
The
very
reason I
bad.
left wasn't necessarily her. It's because the organization did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
This had no consequences. And if this can happen to me, it could happen to a little
So,
boy. It could happen to someone who has mental health issues. And I actually believe in the dojo oath. I actually believe in Bushido. I actually
mhm,
believe in the spirituality and everything else that comes with it in terms of Kyokushin. So I basically told myself that I don't want any belt from an organization that remains silent under such circumstances because it would be tainted.
all right,
And the reason I broke protocol is because I can only respect people who, as human beings, are respectful and
that's
worthy
true.
of that respect. You can
Mm-hmm.
put on a 7th or 8th dan, and you could be the best fighter in the world, but if you are rubbish as a human being, I'm not going to respect you.
True.
So that was the second pillar. The third pillar, first I lost a relationship. It happened again because it was built on false premises.
Mm-hmm.
Then this hunt or confrontation with the truth made me realize that I was projecting my golden shadow to an organization that was ultimately narcissistic in my view. That had to die as well. The third one was my corporate entity, and that had to die as well.
All right.
So if you think about the dark night of the soul, yes, it's healthy. You do need to bloody go through it, but it's everything but comfortable.
Yes, it happens. It
um,
well
during
we
that
are
Nigredo blackening, sorry, I know that I've been talking a lot, so we'll come back to this next time. But I sat in that black void, and I realized that all my life I've been waiting for an external central bank of love and safety and
yes,
validation to give me that warmth. But genuine growth can only come from within. Genuine growth can only happen if it is not based on false signals, lies, and death. And for that, the old systems have to die. But narcissists really, really don't handle it well when they're exposed to reality. And
Mm-hmm.
if they have to look into a mirror, they will rage. If you confront them with the truth, they will do something that's called Darvo. And in the next episode, I'm going to explain why this exact pattern of behavior is exactly what certain institutions and big market manipulators do, and what is going to happen.
Well, I'm really excited to know about that. We have been discussing this for a long time now, and I'll be getting really in depth with that. Like, we'll be discussing. So, really excited to have that discussion as well.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it, Shubham. I know that we're out of time. I've been blabbering a lot. I still have to write my newsletter, send it out.
Mhm.
So if you enjoyed this episode, come back next time as well, and see you hopefully actually not next week. Next week I won't be able to record this, but 2 weeks from now. In the meantime, um, keep up the good work. Try to find the truth, and be
Don't.
understanding with yourself, and look inside for answers.
Yes,
Because
don't be
as
any loss.
dark as the Nigredo, the Dark Night is, it is always followed by dawn, lightning, and sunshine.
Uh-huh. Yes, that we say, right? After a long dark night, morning comes with the sunshine, right?
Yep.
It actually brings up the new life. Great, then. See you guys. Thanks, Matt.
See you
See you next time.
anytime. See you. Bye.